Hi everyone! Today I just wanted to do a walkthrough of some of my previous journals. You can see here this covers 2016, 2017 and 2018. Now I've gone basically a full circle. Before this I did have a Filofax, however I found that I wasn't using it towards the end, so I did sell it on eBay, so that's the only one I don't have to show you. But basically I went through a progression of Filofax. This served as a Hobo Nietzsche. I've got 2 bullet journals, and then in 2019 I've moved back into a planner. So I thought I'd just do a flip through of them and talk a little bit about them, and I'll also link my my video to my 2019 planner setup as well if you're interested. And yeah, just go through I guess what worked and what didn't, and why I sort of switched from one to the other. So if we start with the Hobo Nietzsche, just putting those to the side. Now this of course isn't the official Hobo Nietzsche book. I was watching a lot of the setups and plan with me Hobo Nietzsche videos on YouTube, and I really wanted to join in. However, I didn't want to spend the money on an official book, so I just purchased a cheap blank notebook, so unlined, from a stationery store nearby, and so that was going to serve as a Hobo Nietzsche. I should also say that when I was looking at all of these videos, I was really focusing on the aesthetic that people had of basically drawing every day, doodling every day, these highly visual, highly artistic versions. So I know that you know, it can be as artistic or not as you like, but that's what I was trying to adhere to, and I think that's one of the reasons why it really didn't work for me, just because of the pressure of having to sort of like doodle and spend the time and draw every day. So anyway, we'll start on a flip through. So I started this basically in September, and you can see that I've tried to draw out a lot of the things that happened that day, or what I was doing, what I was reading, what I was basically what was happening at the time, and I stuck to a day per page format. So I had 1 day per page, and I also marked them all up in terms of the month, so I was going to be able to, if you look at the side, so you could see that that was September and that was October. So I did have fun doing this, but towards the end you can see that I start using a lot of stickers and washi tape and things like that to decorate, because the job just gets a little bit onerous in drawing and doodling. My original idea was to be doodling things that objects of the day, so I'd just get practice in drawing different objects, whether they looked like cartoony or whether I had a serious desire to like sketch the item out. I tried to do all that. I also, if you give me room to write, I will write pages and pages, so that was another thing as well. And most of this stuff is just a document of sort of what happened that day, which I have kept diaries on and off, but I never really sort of see the purpose of me going back and reading through them. I've never really done that historically, so I did wonder about the value in doing that, because I'd given myself a bunch of, or basically like a recap of the day, and like then a visual recap of the day, so I wasn't finding this particularly useful. I didn't use it to record to-do lists or anything like that. It was literally sort of like a Hobo Nietzsche cross diary, I suppose you could call it. So needless to say, I start getting really over it very, very quickly. And maybe one day I will have a look at the official Hobo Nietzsche and actually take the plunge and try it for a year and see what it's like. But this, the way I'd imagined it and set it up in 2016 was not sustainable for me, basically. So that's the reason I think it took me, I kept this for a little over a month, I'd say. I'm just going to flick through to the next one there. This is where you can see I start getting really over it, and I think I'm almost at the end. So yeah, I kept up till almost the end of October, and this is where I start using it for an anything book. I think this was where I was trying to commit to pen without using a pencil outline. So obviously Rey from Star Wars, Severus Snape, Bellatrix Lestrange, Harry Potter. Same thing again, trying not to use pencil, just committing to pen straight away. Fruits Basket, the anime Fruits Basket, for anyone that watched that. These would have been referenced as well, they didn't come straight out of my head. Playing with a Brush Pen, Spirited Away, and then I think we go to, yeah, basically keeping, I think this would have been a mix of morning pages and just journaling. Yep, some 2018 journaling I used then as well. And then you can see this is as far as I got, so halfway maybe, might be a little bit optimistic to call that halfway. So yeah, I suppose it was a mix of the aesthetic that I was trying to keep to, and also I guess the way in which I was using it. So that's probably the two reasons why that really didn't last too long for me. And also the unlined blank page is something I do struggle with, because I do, I suppose anxious is too strong a word, but like it annoys me when my writing is like not straight, and you know, like if you want to draw things or set things up, it's, you know, you've got to like do all the ruling and the measuring as well. So I'm not really a fan of the blank book either for that reason. So anyway, yeah, this lasted me roughly what, like a month to a month, like slightly over a month maybe. So that's why that one didn't work out. And then I saw the bullet journal system and thought that was something that I really wanted to check out. And you notice that this is from May 2017 to December 2017, so I did have that break. I probably would have done a mix of morning pages and nothing much at all up until that point. And then I was watching a lot of bullet journal setup videos, and I decided to take the plunge, and this time I decided to actually purchase one of the Leuchtturm like a sort of official bullet journal books. So I guess I was using it as it was intended, I suppose, instead of purchasing like any old book and making it fit. I really did like the I really did like the grid, the light grids that they have on here. So I thought that was really useful. It was sort of like having a blank page, but there was that option to make ruling lines really easy, and breaking the page up and doing whatever sort of decorations that you wanted to do. I felt they made that quite easy. The Year at a Glance I think looks cool, but I never really referred to it once, so that was a bit of a waste for me. This next page has birthdays on it. Calendex, once again, it looks really funky, but I never really used it. I went through and I coloured things in, but nothing really came of that at all. Didn't end up going back and filling that in. And then my months start in May. And I obviously got inspiration from a lot of the people on YouTube that were setting up their months as well. So a lot of the themes were taken or inspired by people off YouTube that were doing setups. I do like the week on 2 pages. I believe that worked quite well in terms of like enough to be able to do a little bit of writing without having to fill up a lot of blank space. But you can see I do start, there's a little bit of a to-do list happening, as well as like a little bit of journaling, which I sort of don't feel as journaling is ever super helpful for me. I did quite like doing the habit trackers. That was sort of fun as well. And I think just playing around with the different ways you can express the week on 2 pages. Like a little project spread on doing the kitchen and doing the the bedroom. I was looking at ways to cut out the amount of waste and get rid of the things I didn't want in my life. Some paint swatches and a Whole30. Just a bit of journaling and some places that I had visited. And then we get into July, where I did a Harry Potter theme. So I went sort of a little bit nuts with the Harry Potter theme. I tried doing a sentence a day journal to varying success. I sort of didn't really see the purpose too much of it. And then this is where I tried doing really brief weeks. And I got the watercolor out and decorated it with the house logos and all that sort of thing. And this was just a to-do list that I'd stuck in there on things I was focusing on. Some Lush tries. So this is where I start playing with the idea of the 4 flavor sampler, and that was an exercise brought up in a book called The Renaissance Soul. And so the analogy is of an ice cream shop. So you go into an ice cream shop and you ask to try 4 flavors, and so what this is basically is, and you could pick 3 or you could pick 5, it didn't really matter, but the suggestion was 4. So you pick 4 things you want to focus on for a set period of time. So I picked it for a month, so that you're basically focusing on some of the projects you want to do, but you don't feel like, so you're making progress there, but you don't feel like you're in focusing on these 4, you're ignoring the rest of the projects you want to do forever and ever. So it was basically for people that have so many hobbies and things they want to do, they never start because they're concerned that they'll in committing to some, then they're saying no to others forever. So that was the idea behind that. So I'd said which 4 I wanted to work on this month, and then the idea was the next month, you know, you go in and say, okay, well, this one's still really working for me, so I'll keep this one, but I'm going to change up the other 3 or whatever. So the idea is you just consciously choose on what to focus on. So I thought that was a really cool concept, and I'll link the book below as well, so that you can investigate that if that's something you're interested in. If I can find something specifically about this this exercise, I will, but if I can't, I'll link the book so that you can look through that as well. I was looking into zero waste ideas, gardening, a list of interests. That was so I could do the 4 flavor sampler or focal points. They were also referred to, so that was just a list there for my reference. This would have been inspired by someone's bullet journal layout again. The things I was going to focus on that month. And then I just tried a vertical layout for something different. And I got the watercolors out here and just did a bit of watercoloring on the pages. It didn't bother me that they sort of go a little bit crinkly. It's not terribly noticeable, and it takes light watercolor pretty well as well. So, and you can see there was not much decoration otherwise, so it's literally all just writing and the color from the paint. So and the same again. November, I attempted NaNoWriMo for the second time. The first time I was successful, this time I got so far and then I stopped. Just changing up the week on 2 pages there for a bit of a different layout. People I was watching on YouTube at the time. And you can see once again, there is literally no decoration. You can see I'm starting to get really over it. It was actually quite a busy month, I believe, as well, so that was also part of it. I attempted a mood tracker and went on holidays from this point onwards, and then thought it was a bit of a waste. Obviously, on holidays I'm in an awesome mood usually, and because the arcs got bigger, then it took more to colour in, and I just lost interest in doing that. Bit of a journaly reflections there. And this section was sort of dedicated to Inktober, so I'll just flick through it quickly. So Inktober, basically where you make a drawing in ink every day, or you paint in ink, whatever sort of inky medium you do. That was the theory. And it is sort of set, it's a challenge every year in October, so they have a list of prompts, or you can just, you know, do your own. I decided to follow the prompts, and this was the first time I'd participated, and the first time I'd actually spent a lot of time drawing and creating in quite a while. So you can really tell, actually. A lot of these photos as well are referenced, the ones that are coming up. So a lot of these images are referenced as well. They're not my own creation. I just thought I'll put that out there. So before the month started, I did a little bit of brainstorming, because the prompts actually turn up earlier than the day before, for example. So you have the time to sort of sit there and have a think about it. And I thought that planning would probably be my best chance of success. So I went through and I did some planning as to what I wanted to draw for some, or what I could draw for some of the prompts. And I did quite a few of those. That was just I think a layout I was testing to see if I'd do that for January. Some themes that I might want to do, and some pen testing. I suppose just some more testing there as well. I've started using it as a bit of a testing thing at this point, trying to write in columns and in capitals, which is quite onerous to do as well. And here we have the start of Inktober. To start off with, I only had a ballpoint pen because I chose to do this basically on a whim. So I was deciding a couple of days beforehand, and I really didn't have the materials to start off with. I actually ordered some pens, and they didn't arrive till a couple of days after the challenge started. So I basically made do with the stuff that I had at my house. And here you can see I basically, I used paint because I was just sick of using the ballpoint pen. And the same thing here. Got the paint out and did that. And I think it wasn't till, day 6 was the very first day I actually had the pens arrive, and I was able to start using really fine tip pens, as well as the sort of the regular sizes that you get in just any store. You can see some days I wasn't terribly inspired. I decided I wasn't going to be drawing someone running, so this one was definitely referenced. I think I tried to use ink as a background here, like just, I think ink from an ink pad. I don't think I had any liquid ink of my own, so I used stamp pad ink just to do that, which to varying success obviously. Magpies. Which are Star Wars. An American Tale. That was a cartoon I really grew up with. Lord of the Rings, Alice in Wonderland. And then I was, I guess, on a high of Inktober and decided maybe in the future I'd go back and do a previous year's one because I was actually really into it, and finding that towards the end I was a little bit happier with my pictures than I was at the start. Like I feel like in practicing every day that I sort of started really improving, so I was keen to sort of keep on that roll. So I noted down a previous year's Inktober, just some journaling there. That was definitely a referenced one, Harry Potter. I believe, yeah, so this is where I decided I was going to use that, the 2016 prompts and keep it to Harry Potter. So I did that for a little bit in various styles. And this was a break where I decided I was drawing samurai, so Rurouni Kenshin, the anime, and Samurai Champloo as well. Back to Harry Potter. And then I believe that's it. Got some practices and some just random journaling. That was my NaNoWriMo count. Some reflections and some blank pages. So most of it was filled. I got pretty close to the end there. And yeah, I quite liked the bullet journal, so I did end up going for the bullet journal in 2018 as well, so we'll go through that one next. Sorry if the lighting has changed a little bit. The last part of this video didn't film, so I had to reshoot it, so that's what, if the lighting has noticeably changed, I'm really sorry about that. So this was my 2018 bullet journal, again in a Leuchtturm book, and you can see that it's what I've done is I've taken out bits of this and put it into my 2019 planner, which is why it's sort of falling apart. Not that that really bothers me or anything. I really wanted to take some of this information out and put it into my current planner, so that's the reason why it looks like it's it looks pretty distressed. So a key, I was just going for Harry Potter there again. And yeah, you can see like I really did a number on it, working with the index, and I started this at the beginning of the year in 2018 as well, so I continued straight on, and you can see that I've taken out some images and that as well for my current planner, and that just an image which I liked, which sort of just, I guess, portrayed beautiful food. Bucket list and sort of what I was hoping to, I guess, achieve, and some targets. Okay, so I've done a future log again. This time below here will be lists of birthdays and important dates, and along the top I've just gone along and drawn some flowers and plants that are sort of characteristic of the different months here in Australia or in the southern hemisphere, not all necessarily Australia. And some of them were quite easy to think of, and some of them made me realize just sort of how much I don't realize sort of like what's in season and when, whether it's sort of like fruits and vegetables or, you know, flowers and plants. So so here's the final page. So for example, the wattle in July, the daffodil in August, and the frangipani in December. So they were sort of really obvious times for me, but some of the others not so obvious. So that was just interesting to note, I thought, anyway. So I did the 2018 Lunar Calendar, and this was taken from Ezzy Spencer's website. So then we have the different moons. I'm not sure, I think I must have reversed them for the Southern Hemisphere, because, for example, August and June, we've got like the colder ones, which, you know, theoretically symbolizes the Southern Hemisphere. I don't know if you can just swap it like that or not. Something for me to explore. Anyway, then we have the moon phases. I obviously have another page here which I've taken out because it had information I wanted to put into my 2019 planner. This was just a picture of all the plants that we put in the bathroom, and a bit of a diagram, and a bit of a garden journal there, more garden journal, and then the other side of that information. So I've done some information on the elements, just written that out, taken off the internet, and a copy of the Rider-Waite full picture. And then into January. So this obviously would have been inspired by someone on YouTube that had done a spread that I'd quite liked. And then I went for a double spread on like the month at a glance, I suppose. I've still kept to the week on 2 pages. I've started doing a tracker week to week instead of as a month. And most of this stuff, there are a few to-do lists, but mostly like a bit of a summary of the day. So I think that's just February. Again, would have been inspired by some planners on YouTube, and I've gone for the vertical layout again. Some lush tries. In 2018, my tarot card of the year was Death, so then I just had a little bit about what that might mean, and some keywords for me to think about in 2018. This image was the Death card in the Shadowscapes Tarot. Some non-fiction books that I'd read. Again, I didn't really continue to fill that out. A lot of these to-do lists and errands and everything, I actually use Google Keep and Google Calendar for a lot of this type of information and that. So writing it down was also a little bit of a duplication of of different lists as well for me. So that's something that I really noticed, that, you know, in a future planner, that potentially I wouldn't need to start putting in, because it's something that I've already got a bit of a system working for me. So that's why that part of the journaling process has never been super successful, or for me anyway. I started doing quarterly reviews. I don't think I kept that up throughout the year though. We were going overseas, so I did try doing a budget just to see the percentages of what was going to where, but I didn't sort of do like a monthly budget or like a weekly budget or anything. This was just sort of like an overall picture, because once again, for my budgeting and finances, I use Excel, so I can keep it, you know, it's always up to date, and I don't need to rewrite anything in. I just update the cells. So, and that was just more of a breakdown of the budget. I was doing the $1,000 project, which is a book, and also a lady, Canna, Campbell, and I'll link her channel below, but basically things that you can do outside of your everyday job to earn you money, whether it's things like, you know, selling things on eBay, you know, getting an extra job, you know, finding $5 like in your wallet or down the side of the lounge, just all things like that. So I was just having I was doing a bit of a $1,000 project myself. I'm not sure whether I just stopped colouring it in or stopped focusing on it. April, I decided to go hard out, and this was inspired by The Last Unicorn, which was a I never read the book as a child, but I had the cartoon, and it was like one of my favorite cartoons ever, and so I decided to do that. And I think I was trying to commit to pen again without going straight for the pencil. I'm not sure. Obviously I committed to pen there way too early. That looks a bit hilarious, but anyway. A gratitude list, and then just the week on 2 pages again. Bit of random journaling. And I think I've also gone back at a later stage and started just journaling on the pages that were blank in an effort to sort of like basically like fill the book, use up the pages. So that's why you can see bits and pieces there where it's a mix of journaling and actual daily activities. So I've definitely started going into the journaling here. And I think that could be it. So I think April was the last month that I kept this bullet journal. So a little bit of journaling for quite a few of those pages there. I think I was going to start doing Inktober, but then things got really busy and I didn't end up doing that. And I think I was focusing on elves. Yeah, so that was Yorvith from The Witcher 2, and I think that might have just been a referenced photo of a guy with an owl that ended up being an elf with an owl. And I think that's pretty much it. The rest of it is all journaling and free writing. Yep. And even in the back. So then, taking into account the fact the spine is pretty crappy, that's sort of how far I've gotten. And this also takes into account all of those journaly pages that I've done. So if I was going to say, I guess the main reasons why I stopped using the bullet journal, and most of these are like personal. It's not that I disliked the bullet journal system in any way. I think it can be quite powerful, and if you stripped it right back and just you know, like put, you know, like black pen to paper, for example, and just noted things down really quickly, I think it's definitely a really powerful thing. For me though, the reasons why this didn't end up working for me is because my weeks don't have a lot of variance to them. I'm an office worker, and as much as I like to think I have a ton of things to plan for the week and get to be creative about my time, a lot of my time I don't. So doing giant long to-do lists and, you know, really setting my week up, it doesn't really need to be done. And all the to-do lists all of the calendar information, that goes on to Google Keep and Google Calendar for me. So that's again something that I don't really need to be drawing. And as for the week on 2 pages, I start journaling a lot of the time, just sort of keeping a diary, sorry. So I start keeping a diary of, you know, what happened that day, which I don't really see a lot of value in doing that, unless, you know, that something major happened that day. I'm never going to go back and read it, so I don't sort of see the value in that for me personally. The second reason is that I'd like to be spending my creative energy actually just, you know, like maybe doing a drawing or like a painting, or crafting something, collaging, doing something like that. Whereas I felt like when I was setting up like a month, that's where all my creative energy was being burned, and it was sort of I didn't sort of end up touching, you know, like the paints, or, you know, doing like really good sketches, because I was basically just expending all of the energy I had doing, you know, like monthly calendars and 2 weeks on a page, sorry, a week on 2 pages and things like that. So that was another reason why it didn't really work for me personally. I did like a lot of the collections and doing things like that, but again, I have a lot of my collections online, so the books I want to read are on Goodreads. My budget and things like that, they're on Excel. A lot of the stuff is already captured somewhere else, and like quite efficiently, and I like the idea that you can, you know, sort of change it and add to it, and that without having to redo a lot of these spreads and things. So that was another reason that a lot of the things that do go into a bullet journal, I don't actually really need to use. But that's not to say that I don't think it is a valuable system, and I really do love the fact that there's the dots, so that you can easily rule lines and, you know, like measure boxes and set the page up however you basically want to set it up. So I really did like that about it. So in 2019, as I said, I switched into a planner. It isn't a Filofax, but it is a like a ring bound planner, and I'll link a video of that below. With that one, you can see a huge difference. I've swapped from doing all of the, you can hear my cat scratching the lounge at the moment. Thanks Corbin, love you, bro. Yeah, so in my 2019 planner, you can see a huge difference where I have stopped doing all of the to-do lists and the calendars and the monthly spreads and the daily spreads. I've stopped doing all of that, and I've literally divided the tabs up into topics that I'm interested in. And so that was a tour through my 2016 to 2018 planners. I hope you found this interesting or useful in some way, and happy planning to you all. Alright, see you in another video. Bye!